Imagine your business not just surviving, but thriving. Your wealth locked in, your opportunities exploding, and your family's future built on a legacy that never fades. I'm Leah Garcia, a financial strategist and insurance professional. I help entrepreneurs and high-growth enterprises protect, distribute, and transfer their wealth through my proven system, the Wall of Wealth. I unite your experts into one cohesive strategy because the most expensive line on your balance sheet isn't debt or taxes, it's conflicting advice. Ready to align every dollar with your mission and turn today's success into tomorrow's divine promise. Wealth today, dynasty tomorrow.
Happy Wealthy Wednesday, champions. Come on in. It's going to be incredible. I want you to go ahead. Come on in. Get something comfy. Get something cozy. Maybe you need your fuzzy bunny slippers. Maybe you're going to get a notepad. Today's guest speaker is going to be very powerful. And just, a little bit of maybe a trigger warning for some people. We're going to be talking about some deep topics here, but it's all good. We're all here in love. We're all here to support each other, all here really to help you to become your best and greatest version. That's right, Yvette, we are live. She's backstage. This is going to be amazing. Our topic today is riches that matters most, finding wealth beyond a diagnosis. And I just think that's such an incredible topic because so oftentimes I meet people who have had a diagnosis, they've had something, a trauma or something happen, and they just kind of feel like that's where their life stops. Like they just can't see beyond that. But there truly is not just riches, but there's a whole nother you beyond whatever's happened. And I love the way that she flips the script, right? It becomes her superpower. And I truly believe that everything that happens to us is there to teach us. I know that sometimes people feel that, poor me, why did this happen to me? But we got to flip the script on that. Maybe the thing that is there happened is there to challenge you. Maybe it's there to help you to find another level of who you are. I don't know what it is, but there's always a gift. My mentor taught me years ago, in every adversity, there's a seed of a benefit, but only if you look for it. We got to look for that benefit because it's there. It's hidden there. I promise you. So my guest speaker, I think you all know who it is because she's been all over social media, but I recently met with her. And as soon as I met with her, I just knew that I needed to have her on this show because her story is very powerful. And she says that, she's a mom, a grandma, a wife, a believer in Christ, a high school teacher, hoping to make a difference. She has a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree in sociology. She's passionate about understanding people, relationships, and the obstacles that shape our lives. I love that because they truly do shape our lives. Sometimes the pain and struggle that we go through brings out the best in us. In addition to teaching, she's a photographer who loves capturing meaningful memories. She enjoys reading, writing, and spending quality time with her family. She's married to an incredible man, and she's a proud mother of 2 children, 5 stepchildren, and a grandmother to 3 granddaughters. Without further ado, please give it up for my incredible guest speaker, Miss Yvette Leal. Welcome to Wealthy Wednesday.
Hi, Leah. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. I love your pink.
Thank you. It actually changes colors, but I was like, well, let me match the microphone and have a little bit of pink on my shirt. So,
well, there you go. I love it. That's a great idea. I mean, you just look like a spicy enchilada ready to bring the fire here. I love it. So tell us a little bit about, we kind of know you, I think, but tell us a little bit about, what the value you're hoping to bring to your audience today.
Well, I'm hoping to share just a little bit about, I guess, what my purpose is or my journey is for life. I really have gone through a lot of struggles since I was little all the way up till now. But I really hope to inspire other people to understand that they can find their purpose and their meaning too. And even find hope in some of the challenges and obstacles that we face in life.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so, so good. And it really is true. And I can relate to that because in my childhood, I grew up with a lot of dysfunction. My father was an abusive alcoholic. There was not a lot of positive things. I loved to go to school, although we didn't go to school often. If we missed the bus, if my parents didn't wake us up, any excuse really, but I always wanted to go to school. I wanted to be at school. I wanted to be learning. I wanted to be around that. So, all those things that have happened shape us to who we are.
Yes, absolutely. And I kind of have a different I felt it a little bit different. I didn't like going to school. I actually I rather would have just played outside because when I was really young, my parents would just tell us go outside. Like my dad worked during the night. So during the day when he wanted to sleep, my mom was like, the best way to keep us quiet was to push us out the door. So we grew up outside. Like we played, we met friends. I had so many diverse friends of different races, different belief systems, all kinds of stuff. And what was really cool about that part of the beginning of my life is that my parents never judged. My mom was Hispanic. She is Hispanic and my dad is white. And then they never put labels on kids and said, oh, well, you can't play with that kid or that person. So I grew up playing with everybody. Like I wanted everybody to be my friend. And, but when I went to school, it was different. So school, you weren't allowed to talk as much or do as much or play or even to create. It was, you had to listen to what the teacher said. And if you didn't, from my experiences, I got yelled at. And so to me, school was never really the safest place for me to be who I was and to figure out my own identity growing up. But it wasn't until years and years later that somehow God put me in the path to become a teacher, even though I hated school so much. But yeah, I didn't find a lot of joy going through school. There was select teachers here and there, but nobody that maybe one that really stood out the most. But, I didn't have a lot of good, I guess, relationships with a lot of my teachers.
That is incredible to know because not only are you a teacher, you've got 2 degrees. I mean, obviously you've done a lot of schooling. So I want you to help us to know where did you flip that. But first I want to welcome a few people who have joined us. We've got a lot of people in the audience here who've joined us. I see the one and only, let's see if I can get up here. Yolanda, I am so glad to have you here. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Listen, this is Wealthy Wednesday. My audience is entrepreneurs and business owners. I allow you to go ahead and network in the audience, shout yourself out, share what you have coming up. Somebody is looking for you and what you do. Miss Linda Meir, thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you. I've been seeing you doing some incredible interviews. I'm wondering when you're coming on Wealthy Wednesday, but we'll talk about that offline. Absolutely. And then, of course, we have Yvette is in the audience too. I mean, this is so cool. I love that. I always say, listen, you got to take an opportunity to rah-rah yourself. You got to be that cheerleader for yourself at times. Dan Roth, great to see you. Thank you for joining us. Remember that we are live here on LinkedIn. We are live on my YouTube channel, Dynasty Builder 93940. If LinkedIn gets a little wonky, we're also live on Facebook. I see people joining us from Facebook, which is great to see. And also we have, oh my gosh, can you believe this? We have somebody, I think you know who this gentleman is here.
Oh, there's my husband.
Which is great. Thank you, husband, for joining us. We always love it when the husbands show up. That's so great. We also have Miss Lee. Thank you for joining us. It's great to see you here. Absolutely. We appreciate you. So, you said that you didn't enjoy school going up, but you ended up being a teacher and having these 2 degrees, which is a huge accomplishment. How did you flip that from not liking school to suddenly, you're just a perpetual student, it sounds like?
Oh, yes. So throughout my life, I would face a challenge, and if somebody wouldn't help me with it, or I couldn't figure out how to get out of it, like I would problem solve, or I would think like, how could I get myself out of this situation? When I was little, I used to be a liar. So that was easy. You just lie your way through things to get out of situations. But as I was getting older, like I had to figure out other ways, and I guess it's kind of like a survival thing when you're a kid, especially facing obstacles like your parents splitting up. When your parents split up, a lot of things in your life change, and, you have to face these obstacles on your own. So how do you figure things out? So when I would bring my schoolwork home and I'd ask my mom for help for school because I didn't understand what the teacher was saying, or sometimes the teacher would kind of get irritated. Like I've always been able to kind of read people's emotions. And maybe that's why I like taking pictures of people's faces, because I can, like, when I look at a face, I can almost tell, like, are they upset with me? Are they excited? Do they really want to be here? I love reading faces. And so when I was in school, I could tell when the teachers just didn't want to answer a question, or they felt like you're being a little too much. So I would bring my homework and ask my mom, and my mom would be like, I don't know, just go ask your teacher. I didn't take that in school, and so I go to school, and then the teachers wouldn't really help too much. And so I would be afraid to ask them. And so I didn't always make the best grades. And then I got to the point freshman year when that's where like more of before that, I would just conform and do what the teacher said and sit there and be quiet and try my best and maybe even copy off somebody and ask for help from a friend. But when I got to 9th grade, I was sick and tired of it. I was tired of teachers being rude. And so sometimes I would talk back, or I'd walk out of the classroom and skip class, or I would make my friends in the class laugh when the teacher was being rude. And so then I'd get put in the corner like a little kid. I was in ISS a lot, and my mom couldn't figure out like what was going on with me because the communication wasn't the best. So she sent me away to a girls' home. And when I was there 6 months, came back home. Then my mom said, you can't go back to school. You have to do homeschool. So I did homeschool for a while and taught myself. And so once I went through the homeschool, I finished it in 3 months, a whole year's worth of work. Took it to the high school, and I wanted to be a junior because I had missed my sophomore year. So I take it to the school, and the counselor looked at it and said, I'm sorry, honey, none of this counts. None of it counts. You're going to have to repeat everything. So that lit a fire in me. And I said, well, I want to graduate in 1996 with all my friends. I don't want to be here an extra year. Like, there's no way. I hate school. And I said, how can I looked at her in the face. I said, what can I do? What can I do to graduate on time? And she goes, it's going to be hard, but you're going to have to double up on classes. You're going to have to go to summer school. And so that was the pivotal moment where I decided I'm not going to let somebody's attitude and their meanness and cruelness in the classroom affect me. I am getting out of here. I'm graduating. And so when my Algebra 2 teacher would yell at any student that asked a question, I took my book home and I read it. And I read every chapter. I did all the problems in the back. I figured out Algebra 2 on my own. And then I would tutor kids. There were kids in the class that would struggle, and they'd be like, I'm going to fail this class. And I'd turn and look at them and said, no, you're not. I said, hang out with me and I'll tutor you. So I made one best friend that way, and I helped her pass the state test because none of the teachers could help her pass it because she couldn't figure out what they were trying to say to her. So I had a way, and at the time, like, I didn't have the foresight to think, well, maybe I'd make a good teacher. I just thought I was helping people, and I didn't want them to struggle like I was struggling, because if I could figure out how to get out of it, I'm going to show you how to get out of it too. So I would help all of my friends, and I would, throughout life, I went to a job and I asked for help on how to do an Excel program. And they were like, oh, you have to figure it out yourself. So I said, okay. So I figured it out. I problem solved, figured out how to do Excel. And then before you know it, I was teaching my supervisors how to set up formulas in Excel. And then I think the seeds were just planting for leading me into teaching, because people kept saying, gosh, you have so much patience, and wow, like you really know how to explain it. And so all of those just kind of got into my mind, and I just wanted to make money. So I was like, how, when my job said that they would pay for me to go back to school, because I was only making 30,000 a year. I was like, you're going to pay for me to go to school. So what kind of class can I take to make the most amount of money? And what am I interested in? So I started taking classes, and that's when I fell in love with psychology. And psychology was the study of the mind and the study of how your brain works and how you function and your behaviors. And a lot of stuff started clicking with me. And at the time, I felt like I was so stupid. I thought that I was incapable. So I would read just like I did in high school. I read every single textbook in college. And if I didn't know a word, I would look it up in the dictionary. And I studied and studied and studied. And then I realized, well, I want to be a psychologist because they make a lot of money. And so that was going to be my path. But then I also enjoyed helping people. So I talked to somebody at a college, and they said, well, why don't you, hold on, something, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, something popped up. I'm just going to move that out of the way. So he said, well, you could always teach for a couple years and then go that route if you get a psychology degree. So I was like, okay, but I don't know anything about teaching kids in a classroom. And I was so nervous.
Hope, did we lose you? This is a great comment. I love this comment, Gabe. We lost you for a second. Can you hear us, Yvette? While we're getting Yvette back, Gabe says, so ironic that I was such a terrible student and then I end up marrying marrying a teacher. I think that is so beautiful. I call that a match made in heaven, right? And here he goes. This is so true. Yvette is a breaker of generational and cultural cycles, enabling future generations of her family the freedom of speech and individuality. I think that is a brilliant comment. And I mean, you married the most incredible person. And you know, what's really interesting to me is that what Yvette did was, what other people meant for bad, she switched it to have it be for good for herself. Other people were telling her, you couldn't do it, this is going to be too hard. But she said, you know what? I'm going to prove them wrong. How many times when people tell us things that we just start ruminating over that and we just accept that as truth? But then, you know what? We can absolutely flip the script. Maybe that's the sort of encouragement you need to get outside your comfort zone. She got outside her comfort zone. She felt like she wasn't intelligent, which is, by the way, completely not true. She felt like, let's see her, she is. There you are.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can see you. Absolutely.
Okay. So apparently we need to buy a new computer because
oh, that's okay.
Because my system ran out of memory, and so everything shut down. So I just logged in through my phone. So I'm on my phone now.
Totally fine. That's totally fine. We were just talking about how you flipped the script.
Yeah.
You said that you didn't feel intelligent. People around you didn't make you feel like you were intelligent. They felt like you couldn't do it. But what you said was, I wrote it down. You said, I'm going to prove them wrong. I love that. Because sometimes we do things, we don't even know like what's going to be that button that's going to encourage us to go to that next level, encourage us to get outside of our comfort zone, to do things that we don't think that we're capable of. And that's exactly what it was. You're like, hey, you know what? You think I can do it? Let me prove you wrong. Let me show you who I am. You don't know me is what it is. So I think that's incredible. And obviously you're a natural teacher. You're naturally somebody who likes to empower and educate and teach other people, which is an incredible skill. A lot of people have to develop that. You had that. You came by that naturally. And by the way, I still have nightmares about my ninth grade algebra class. So I'd be happy to talk to you offline about. No, I'm just kidding. I no longer want, no longer want to go back there. But yeah, so I love that. So tell us now. You did really flip the script. I want to know though. As an adult, when you had these diagnoses, and it really took you through just a lot of different phases. When was the moment that you made that connection of the diagnosis and how this is going to become your superpower? Because that's one of the things you wrote down. By the way, if you guys don't know, yes, she's a co-author here. We choose to be more than
you have it too.
It is. Yeah, you got to see her picture. It's so cute. I love this picture of you. Let's just see. Here it is right here. Yeah, here we go. But you said that you learned to have your diagnosis become your superpower. I'm sure you didn't start there, but what was that moment where you kind of flipped the script on that too?
Well, I think first of all, I had built up who I was, and my identity, and where I was headed, and I was established, and I was a mom, and I was married, and I was a teacher, and and I started to kind of like, I guess, mold who I was. And then when COVID hit, that's when everything changed. And we had to teach from home. And so when I was teaching from home, it was great at first because I felt like now I could be home. My daughter was only 1 year old at the time, my youngest. And I thought, man, I can be a stay-at-home mom and do school online. But something lit in me where I just wanted to help everybody. Like I wanted to help the kids in the classroom. And now that I was online, I could help more people. And so I kept trying to help and help and help. And I didn't realize that the battery has to be recharged. And I wasn't recharging myself. And then all of a sudden I started wanting to fix everything. So that deep rooted who I was, and I think that just that survival skill where I was trying to fix things and try to prove, who I was, just came to the surface. And my ex-husband started to question my behavior. Like, I don't think you're getting enough sleep, or, he was seeing things. But I was like, no, I'm fine. I'm getting what I need. And I just, it was like everything that I wanted to be started coming out, like how I was helping students. I wanted to do that for myself too. Like I'd always wanted to be a writer. So I started writing and writing and writing and writing. And before you know it, I wasn't sleeping. And so I didn't realize that, I was being led into this episode. And so when it finally surfaced completely, I didn't believe it. So I had already formed who I was, and I was a psychology teacher. So I knew exactly what bipolar was. And when they tried to tell me I had it, I was like, there's no way. That typically happens earlier in life. I hadn't read about or seen anything about later diagnosis. And so I thought that they were just questioning my happiness and my wanting to be better and to grow. Like they were questioning my growth. Like how dare they do that? And so it became more of a reactive. And so I started to get angry, and before you know it, like I couldn't control my anger. And I tried, and no matter how much I tried, like I had always been able to my whole life, like hold that in. But when you're confined into a house and you're around people 24/7, and then your husband doesn't understand what's really going on, and they're trying their best to do what they think would help me calm down, but it's not the solution. And just hovering over me and not giving me that space, I blew up. And I write about that in my chapter. And I'd never blown up like that since I was a little child. So for me to regress that way was not me. And so I thought, well, maybe, and I started thinking, like, this is a midlife crisis. This isn't a disorder. I'm just trying to make changes, and he's stopping me. And so I called the divorce the first time. And I was like, we've got to get a divorce. I've got to make changes in my life, and you can no longer be a part of it. You're causing me to react this way. You're a part of the problem, not the solution. And so I called the divorce the first time. But then going into the depression, because I didn't have, at the time, like, I wasn't thinking that it would ever lead into a down. When the first one hit, I did not understand it at all, because I had never been depressed in my whole life. I've been down and sad, but major depression is different from what the books tell you. Experiencing it firsthand is a whole other battle. It's a different battleground that I would never wish even upon my worst enemy. Going through major depression, it's I try to describe it as much as I can in words, but it's difficult, because it's overpowering. It consumes you. It makes you feel like you can't do anything. You're at zero or negative, because it totally takes over your mind, your soul, your spirit. Everything's gone. It's zapped. And so at that moment, no, I never thought it would be a superpower. Like, there's no way. I just wanted to go to sleep and never wake up. I didn't want to be alive anymore. And every time I saw people passing by, like, I would think, man, I wish I was them. I wish it could be anybody. I mean, I would see a homeless person on the street and say, I would rather be homeless than feel this way. Like, I did not want to be myself. And so I went through that depression for probably 8 to 9 months. And the only thing I can tell you that got me through it had to be God, because there's no way I did that on my own. So there was a reason for me to still be here. And getting through that, and then going on another high and another low and another high, but not another low, I've learned a lot about this disorder, about my way of thinking. Positive thinking it's so powerful and so moving. And the seeds that we plant yesterday bloom into beautiful things in the future that we may not realize unless we open our eyes and pay attention to it. And during those depressions, that's what happened. I had been planting seeds for years. I facilitated parenting classes before I ever substituted. I substituted for 2 years, and then I became a teacher, and I've been teaching for 15 years. And I did not realize how many seeds I had planted throughout my life. And they came back in these beautiful arrangements of letters and things I saw around my classroom and notes that I started to read. And I realized that my life had meaning and value, and I was not ready to give up. And now, like, how can I use this to inspire and give hope to other people? Because I know, especially kids, they struggle with some of these same things, but they don't talk about it. They keep it to themselves. They don't tell their parents. They don't tell counselors. They don't tell even teachers. These kids keep it to themselves. And these poor children, it's the number 2 reason why kids die is through suicide. Number 1 is car accidents, and number 2 is suicide. And these poor children don't realize that there is a rainbow on the other side of these obstacles and these problems, and that you can find wealth and more than just the money side of it, more than just, the success part of life. You can find wealth in healing yourself and then giving that gift to somebody else. Like, that to me brings more beauty than money could ever buy me. And a lot of times I'll tell people I'm a high school teacher, and they're like, bless your heart. I don't know how you do it. Bless your heart. Or like, wow, you don't make enough money. And the thing is, of course, like, everybody would, it'd be nice to be able to pay off some of my debt and to become financially free. And one of those days, that is my goal, to make sure that everything's paid off, because I don't like being in any kind of debt. But there is so much value and so much wealth in humans and that human spirit and seeing them come alive. And, just I have so many stories, and I'll just give you one. But I had a student last year who kept his head on his desk, or no, the year before, kept his head on his desk most of the time, seemed grumpy. Every time I would give like a feedback form, for them to tell me like, how am I doing? Because I want to know like, how am I doing so I can improve. I always want to improve every year. What can I do to make your lives better, or to show you more about how I care about you to help you become successful? He would leave notes like, well, you talk a lot about yourself, and stuff like that. And so he came to visit me. He came to visit me at the beginning of the school year last year, just to come run and give me a hug and just say that he missed my class. And I was like, really? I said, well, I thought I talked too much. And he goes, oh, miss, I was young and naive and dumb. He goes, don't even listen to old me. He goes, I might have had my head on my desk, but I was listening. He goes, I was listening to what you had to say, and oh my gosh, it made a difference. It really did. Don't stop doing what you're doing. Don't listen to what I when I said that. He was like, he goes, I did. I paid attention. He goes, you might not have thought I was, but I was listening. And so little stories like that I've experienced, and I have hundreds of them, really do keep me going and make me realize that I do have value. And that brings me back to life. Every single school year, I go into the school year smiling after summer. And I'm smiling, and I've had teachers question me like, why are you smiling so big? And I'm like, because I'm happy. Like, I get to see new students. I get to see old students. Like, I'm so excited the school year's starting. And they're like, really? And so there's still a lot of work to do in the education system. And there's still a lot of teachers that I think they're ready to move on to something else in life. But I haven't yet. I haven't. Yes, I wrote the chapter in the book, and I think that's one way that I'm elevating. And then my dear friend Dan, he's always pushing me to like be more vocal and to speak more. And he sees some of the light in me that my husband does. And for so many years, I didn't know that anyone saw that until I met my husband. And I mean, he has been incredible since the first moment I met him. And back then I was afraid to write. When I met him, I told him, I said, yeah, I used to write a lot, but I don't write anymore because I'm afraid my writing is going to lead to an episode. So I just don't write. And he goes, that's not going to happen. He goes, why don't you just start small? Just say what you have to say. And he really did encourage me to open up again, because that had turned into a fear for me. That first COVID outbreak, writing, and then going into that episode, I started correlating anything that happened that year with, having another episode. And so he's been one of the biggest supporters I've had, is my husband. And then meeting people on LinkedIn like Dan Roth, and new people like Lay. She's on here today. She's one of the co-authors in the book. Meeting people like her, and then Nick, of course, who introduced me to even writing my first chapter. So a lot of things have happened and led into what I'm now. And yeah, like I see it more as a superpower, because not only has it given me hope and a reason for being here, but it's also pushing me to speak up more, to help other people that might be struggling in a similar situation that I've gone through.
Yeah, that's so incredible. And I appreciate your transparency. We've got a lot of great comments here. I want to highlight this one. It's a long comment, so we're gonna have to like look up, but I want to highlight this comment by Dr. Melissa Robinson, TEDx speaker, author, trainer. Great to meet you. I think I've seen some of your stuff, but she says, thank you for sharing your story, Yvette. if people had the empathy to see who you really were, they wouldn't have been any labels. But sadly, that wasn't your experience. Good for you for reframing and succeeding in spite of your circumstances, not because of them. I think that's a great comment. And you've got a lot of supporters here, which is absolutely makes total sense. She said, Dan says, Yvette, every time you speak, you're getting smoother and smoother. Way to go, my friend. I love that. And you know what? Sometimes it's easy for us to give those accolades and words of wisdom and showcase and highlight others, but sometimes it's difficult to receive that. But I've seen that you're receiving that. So I absolutely love that. I want to ask you something. This might be a difficult question, but I also want to highlight, we've got a few more people that are here before I ask this question.
Yeah, sure.
Colleen, thank you from Jamaica. Great to see you. And of course, the one and only Miss Angai Galindo. She is the brains behind Guiding Brilliant Writers, and she's actually the publisher of these incredible books and bringing these collaborations. One thing I love about what Nick does is she's a great community builder, and she's so incredible at promoting her authors. I love to follow her events, no matter if it's a book that I think is going to resonate with me or not, because I learned so much from her speakers. She is truly the brilliance behind Guiding Brilliant Writers. And this is also what I want to shout her out for connecting me with you.
Aww.
That's called a referral, folks. We got to refer to each other. How many referrals have you given this month? How many referrals have you given this week? Who do you refer to? So as we refer, I just think we become more powerful. Also, if you're having trouble on LinkedIn, join me at my YouTube channel, Dynasty Builder 93940. You can join us over there. So one thing I want to ask you, and you know, if you don't want to answer, it's totally okay. But when I was reading your chapter, you know, I noticed it seemed like you were going through a lot of isolation. What is something, if someone doesn't know that maybe they're depressed, because you seem like that's kind of could be a blind spot, what are some things that you realized that it was depression and not just like one of those things, or just not sleep, like it was really a diagnosis, really something that needed to be addressed?
I wanted to know what it was. And so I knew that I had family members that had bipolar, and I also have family members that have gone through depression. So I called my niece and I said, hey, I have some questions for you. And so I told her, what is it like to be depressed? And then I told her how I was feeling, and she goes, oh yeah. She calls me Aunt Bet. She was the first that she couldn't pronounce my first name, so she called me Aunt Bet. So she's like, Aunt Bet, you are depressed. And I was like, really? And I said, okay, this makes sense now. So immediately I called a therapist, I called a psychiatrist, I tried to get on the right medication. And so I went that route for a while, trying to get on medication, but it never seemed to work. So I stayed on it for months. Nothing changed until I hit another spike in having another episode. And so the next episode, like, that really did confirm the fact that not only do I have bipolar, but it's not something that's could probably go away. It's something that I'm going to have to learn to live with.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because I think that there's maybe other people who are going to hear this now or in the future, or maybe somebody that they know that's struggling with something that they're not realizing or recognizing, that it could be more than just a phase or just not sleeping, or maybe something that they're just going through temporary, that they really do need that medical support to get through that. And here we go. We've got a great comment. Oh my gosh, aren't they so cute? So you got to know this about me. I am like a major romantic. When I see couples that are just, you could just tell that are so connected, I love them to listen to how they speak to each other when the other one's not around. I live near the beach, and so I love to watch couples. They think I'm a stalker. I probably am, but I just think it's so beautiful. So here we go, this beautiful comment. It's been wonderful to see her growth and transformation into the most beautiful and amazing person that I know. My gosh, you guys just love that. Come on, you got to be loving this, even if you're not a romantic. Okay? You got to be loving this. Jason, my good friend Jason, glad to see you. You're coming up on Wealthy Wednesday. Jason is oh my gosh, he is just has so much to give. He's hosting Bible study, daily Bible studies now that are really great. Put it in the comments, Jason. People may be looking for you. He also is a founder of the Circle of Friends. He's going to be coming on Wealthy Wednesday and talking about that. I really do believe that collaboration is a new currency. We got to learn how to collaborate. And I don't see her here, but I'm going to shout her out because I also want to highlight our very own Queen Leslie Flowers. I don't know if you guys know this. Now, we know she does the Mindset Mondays and the Think and Grow Rich Fridays, and she teaches us and pours into us, but she also creates a weekly carousel. If you don't know, she highlights so many events. I am honored and so humbled to be a part of that. But if you're ever looking for somebody to support, you've got some free time, go to visit our Queen Leslie Flowers, and you're going to see all the different events. She has the times, she has the speakers. I mean, it's just incredible. That takes a lot of time and energy to do that. And that's called building the community, right? Pouring back into our community. This time is just kind of flying by here, but I still want to highlight. Let's see, we've got another comment here. Corrine, I don't know if I've ever had a chance to meet you. So thank you for joining us. He says, I'm serious. Everywhere we go locally, a store, a restaurant, events, she sees one of her students and they recognize her and they are actually happy to stop and say hello. Hey, that's a big deal. That is a big deal because I had some teachers, if I saw them, I just keep on walking, right? But we all have those special teachers. We all have those teachers that kind of took us to that next level. One of my special teachers was my first grade, Miss Hammond. Her and I had the same birthday. She would give us jelly beans when we did this spelling word right. She had a secret handshake for us. I mean, you know, just simple little things that you can do. So I do want to talk a little bit more about this book because you share a lot of great things in here. And another thing that stood out to me was that you're talking about, you know, how you could get through all of this because you couldn't always receive God's love. You couldn't always receive love. Like, what helped you to get through some of these very challenging times?
So, the first time I went through the depression, that was the worst because I felt like God had disappeared. Like, he didn't exist. And then unfortunately I read this book where it talked about how the prophets and the people that wrote the Bible and Moses, they probably just had mental illness like schizophrenia. So they saw things that didn't exist and then they wrote about it because it was all in their head, and that's where we got the Bible. So when I read that, then newly being diagnosed with bipolar, I started thinking maybe he's right and there isn't a God. And I will tell you, that whole time that I thought that was my darkest time I've ever been in my entire life. The second time I went through the depression, I told myself, well, I got through it the first time, and I know that if I could get through it once, I could get through it again. But I'm lonely and I need people and I want to have that connection again. And I had my daughter, but she was going to her dad's every weekend. My oldest daughter had moved out. My two stepdaughters at the time had moved out. And I didn't have anyone in my house except for my brother had moved in. And so, but I still felt like I was missing something. And so I told God, like, if you're real and you're really there, then I need to be able to feel you and see you. And the only way I know how is through people that believe in you. And so I thought, and I said, you know what? I was led to go back to a church that I had gone to pre-COVID. And even during COVID, I was watching some of the sermons. And it's been the only pastor that I've ever really trusted because when I was younger, I went to a church where the pastor killed his wife. So it's very hard for me to believe in people that talk about God or preach. But for whatever reason, like I've always felt like I could trust him. So I started going back to that church and listening to his messages. And then during that time, I also lost one of my stepdaughters. She passed from COVID. And I, at the time, was blaming God too, because we prayed and we prayed and we prayed, and she still died. And she was only 23. And we thought, like, she's not super old and she's not super young. Like, why take her? And she's a beautiful soul. Like, there was no reason for her to die. And so part of me was really mad at God. But our pastor preached one morning about unanswered prayers. And he talked about even ministers who had lost their children and what they had gone through. And it blew me away, and it made me start opening my mind and my soul back up to God. And so I needed more. So I saw that they had community groups. And so I contacted the church to get involved in a community group. And I told them specifically I wanted to be in a group where people had mental illnesses, because if they had mental illness and they still believed in God, then I could relate to them. So I got connected to a group with a couple, married couple, and they both had bipolar. And so I stayed in that group for a couple years. I ended up praying that, I would either be by myself the rest of my life, or if God wanted to send a partner in my life, like, allow that to happen. But I wasn't in a rush to get remarried, just to have that companionship and be around someone who was a Christian that I could talk to. And God sent Gabe to me. And the way that Gabe loves me is beyond anything I've ever experienced. And I can only say that I actually feel God's love through Gabe. And so when that happened, that really helped me through some of even more challenging things that have gone on in my life. So I didn't write this in the chapter, but after Gabe and I got married, 3 months after we got married, I was attacked again. I went through another episode. And, you think, or at least I thought, and I hoped that the love that we shared and everything we'd gone through, that I would just be in a stable mood and that would never happen again. Like, deep down, I was hoping for that, but I wasn't stupid enough to think that, like, it couldn't happen. Like, I wasn't that naive. I knew that there was a possibility, but we didn't prepare for it. We were so happy. We'd only been married 3 months. And then here comes another episode. And poor Gabe, like, didn't know what to expect. He had never seen me that way before. But he handled it in the best way that he could. And the fear that I had coming out of it, that he would judge me or think about me in a different way, at first I was scared, but I could, because I could read his face. And his face looked like he didn't see me the same way. So I talked to him about it. I said, why are you looking at me like that? Like, do you not see me the same way? Like, why do you look like that? And he goes, it's because I was afraid and I wasn't prepared and I didn't know. And so we talked through it, and I realized, like, he still loves me the same. And it was amazing, because I finally felt in my entire life that I didn't have to hide behind a mask. I didn't have to pretend what I was feeling. I could still continue to share and be open and be vulnerable with my husband about anything. And that freedom of your mind can do wonders, can do wonders. And so, honestly, I didn't go into another depression. I felt myself being, like, a little down here and there, but I did not hit another depression, because this time I felt like I had support. I felt like I had people around me that loved me and didn't judge me. I felt like I was loved beyond anything before. And before that, I just felt loved by my students and my kids. But now I feel loved by God. I feel loved by my family. I feel loved by my husband. I feel loved by my supporters now that I've met, and connections I've met on LinkedIn. And then I've also built relationships with teachers at my school, where before I stereotyped them, and I thought, yeah, I don't want to be friends with any teacher because, yeah, I don't really like teachers too much. So I didn't, but now I do. I have connections at school with teachers that I am proud to tell them about my book. I sent them messages about it. Some my teacher friends bought the book. One of them even called me and just was blown away by my writing. And she's an English teacher, so she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're so good!" And I'm like, "Oh, that's the best compliment because, coming from an English teacher." So yeah, it's been really good feeling the support and God's love getting me through these hard times, because without that first depression I hit where I thought God wasn't here anymore was the worst experience of my life.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate you being so vulnerable. You're helping a lot of people. There's a lot of support comments here. They're appreciating you sharing this because so many people are struggling or maybe be on the verge of this. I want to give a shout out to my good friend, Coral Conneberry from across the pond. She helps women to hear the voice of God. So I love that it was a perfect time for me to kind of highlight her for her so much. One thing I would like to know, because when I was younger, I was in a car accident and I had a terrible back injury and I was just in so much pain. But I was young. I looked, fit and all that, but I was in so much pain all the time. If somebody like breaks an arm, they see that you have an injury, but like this was kind of an invisible injury. People didn't know unless they saw me hobbling around or, they could tell that I was in pain. What is the one myth that you wish that people would know? Because diagnosis, bipolar and depression is invisible. You can't really see it. There's not like a patch here or something. What is the one myth that you wish that you could break, that people who are struggling with, bipolar or depression or just, anything that is challenging them? What would you say is the one myth that you'd like to break?
Well, I think that some people think that you can just get over it easy, especially depression. So I had people that tried to help me and they gave up on me because they said, well, I'm trying everything with you and nothing seems to work. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. Like, why aren't you snapping out of it? I mean, all you have to do is go and sit in the sun or have a pet or, and I think there's this myth that it's easy to solve by doing X, Y, and Z instead of really understanding that there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, that's really, really good. And is it something that people can get through on their own, or is it something that it really does take seeking mental health professionals and their physician?
I think it takes more than just a mental health a professional, because you go sit in the office, they tell you X, Y, and Z. They say, okay, well, do this, take this medication, go home, you should feel better. That's great and everything, but it's not also a quick fix. So it takes more. Like, yes, I think that seeking medical help is necessary, especially for people that feel on the verge of committing suicide and they've made a plan. They need medical help immediately. But I have been to 3 mental health hospitals, and I can tell you from my experiences that not everybody is there for your benefits. And you can experience some good people there that are wanting to help you, but then you have some people there that think that you're a waste of time and space. And so it takes, oh yeah, and this is another book I want to write about mental health hospitals. I have had some really deep situations that are beyond anything that anyone would want to experience in a hospital. But I think that it takes more than that. It takes friendships, it takes family, it takes loved ones, it takes a spiritual relationship with God. It takes a lot. There's not just one thing that can help you. Like, it takes all of that. And I think too, going through it myself, it takes knowing someone that has it, that's gone through it, that can help work with you through it or give you advice or share something with you. Because sometimes people in the medical field also have never experienced something like this. And this is one reason I really like Dr. Steve Hudgens' book,
Yes.
because when he explains, I read piece by piece, and when he explains, all of this and becoming a therapist, he went through it firsthand. It's not like he's just trying to give you advice from what he read in a book. And that's where a lot of professionals go wrong. And I think a lot of teachers go wrong. They want to be a teacher so bad. So they go to get an education for it and they become a teacher and they think, oh, it's supposed to be, they're supposed to listen to me and respect me. No, honey, that's not how it works. And so a lot of new teachers quit. I've seen teachers at my school walk out within 2 months of being there. They just can't handle the students. And I've been
Yeah.
there 15 years and I love them to pieces. So going through something like what I went through growing up or going through this diagnosis, people that have these diagnoses, they need a support group. That's the biggest thing, is to find people that support you, that can encourage you, that let you vent, because there's times when you need to vent. You need to sit there and talk about every, terrible thing that's going on in your mind, get it out of your system. But then you need somebody there that's going to feed you the positive things that are going to bring you back up. Because sitting there and pitying yourself for months on end and saying, oh, I can't believe I made that choice. And all of those negative thoughts that you tell yourself puts you in that pit of despair for so long, it seems like you'll never break free. So you have to have somebody that can let you tell what's going on, but then also people there that will feed you with positivity. And it takes a lot of it sometimes. I used to read mantras every single day and I didn't believe them, but I read them anyway. I read them. I have to this day, I have posters, I have stickers, I have everything all over my classroom. My classroom is all in colors. I have all the emotional characters from Inside Out on my shelves. I have and I explain all of this firsthand to them. And so my kids, my students, they listen, majority of them, from day one, because I'm open with them. And I'm not afraid to say who I am. I'm not afraid to talk about my diagnosis. I'm not afraid to be open about it, because that's what it takes a lot of times to help people, is to see that you're a real person. You're not just happy and smiling all the time because life has been perfect for you. It takes going through obstacles to feel good about life.
That's right. I love that comment. Yeah, they just think, oh, you just arrived and there you go. So, what I talk about true wealth is having success at what I call the 7 F's: in your faith, your family, your finance, your fitness, your fun, philanthropic, because I believe that givers gain, and food, because it can be costly to have good, nutritious, high quality food. Food connects us. It's how we share our experience and we celebrate, and we share our culture. So I would like to know, Yvette, what's the one investment that's not money that has paid you the biggest dividends, the biggest returns, the biggest investment other than money that you've made that has paid you? Oh, we lost her. That's okay. I'm going to read all these comments. You guys have been giving her so much love, so much support. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Coral, for your incredible support. And I'm going to bring her back up. She is here. She's going to answer this. That's okay. We're waiting
my
for
little
you.
finger, my little finger touched it.
You're okay.
Okay, so the thing that's brought me the biggest amount of wealth, I would say, is children, is the time that I've spent giving to kids. And first of all, it started with my daughter, because I had my daughter. I was a single mom. She's 27 now. And sometimes when she was young, people would be like, well, don't you want to go out with us? Or don't you want to, let's go here for the weekend, whatever. And I'm like, no, I need to spend time with my daughter. So I invested so much time in my first daughter. She is incredible and amazing. And, you know, I didn't want to stop there. Like, it wasn't just my daughter, it was other people's kids. And so I feel like investing in children has had the best payoff. Not adults, it's
For that.
children.
I
So
adore that so much. Please down my free ebook, Magic Maverick and the Treasure Map, because that is really my story that I created with my precious grandson. The biggest treasure we can ever have is within us, right? It all starts with us. And Christy, we know you. We see you everywhere. You see Christy, she's a community supporter. I mean, she makes these incredible posts. She shares so much, but she said she also shares right here, I have depression and people do not understand. So I appreciate, listen, Yvette, your story is resonating with so many people. You've got so many comments. And if I did not highlight your comment, please, I absolutely ask your forgiveness because there's so many comments here. I want to give a friendly reminder to pick up this book. We choose to be more than our diagnosis. It is highlighting several authors. They're all on the back here. And it's very powerful. Even if you're not struggling with a diagnosis, there's a lot of powerful lessons in here that I believe that we can all relate to. So in closing, you've made a lot of new fans and friends, Yvette. How can people reach you? How can people connect with you?
you can find me on LinkedIn. So Yvette Leal on LinkedIn. You can also find me on Facebook. So I'm Yvette Leal on Facebook. I did buy a bunch of copies of the book too. If anyone's interested in buying one directly from me, I can sign it and mail it to you if you contact me through Facebook or LinkedIn. I can probably also be reached if you look up on YouTube through the Unwrap Love Show. So that's a podcast that me and my husband do. We've had a couple of seasons. We'll probably have another season. And then I also will be starting a podcast called The Bipolar Lens. So I will post that. It is on my LinkedIn, the title of it. We just haven't posted any videos for it yet. So it'll be called The Bipolar Lens.
Fantastic. You're doing a lot of things. You're giving back to the community. This is just the beginning. Like you said, don't believe me, just watch. Well, thank you so much, Yvette. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you so much. You gave so many golden nuggets. And I think that you also gave a lot of people hope. So if you're struggling with a diagnosis or depression, or you love someone and you see they're struggling, pick up this book. I'm telling you, there's a lot of wisdom in it. And I would also say, reach out to other people. There's so many people who are willing to support you and to pour into you. So I'm going to go ahead and put you backstage. We've got some little books that you can sign for people down there and freshen yourself up, relax, have some fresh water. Wow, was this amazing or what? I'm telling you, I love doing this show. I'm so honored and humbled that people come out and they support it, and then they're willing to be guest speakers. I just enjoy doing this. Every guest speaker, I learn something. And I love what she said. Yvette said, the seeds that you're planting will bloom into amazing things. They'll blossom and they'll bloom into amazing things. So what kind of seeds are you planting? Remember, you can't plant corn and expect to get cotton. Are you sowing good seeds? What are the seeds that you are sowing into others? What are the seeds that you're sowing into your children? Oh my gosh, that's a deep one, okay? But I would just say that we all have the ability to pour into another and be that receptacle, be that great giver. I do believe that givers gain. It doesn't mean that you write a check sometimes. Maybe you don't have that ability, but maybe you're that listening ear. We all need someone to sit there and truly listen to us. Maybe that's what they need. Maybe they need to go in the other route with medication and something. But you know what? Even if we're not struggling with depression, is it just me, or does sometimes you have a bad day? Okay. Sometimes you have a day when things are going a little twisted up and you need someone to just be that friendly voice for yourself. And we got to be there for each other. I just had this conversation with another community leader, and he was talking about the things that he's going through. Listen, we don't share a lot of things that we're going through, but all of us are secretly struggling with something at some point. We're all in the same book, but we're just in different chapters. So thank you so much, everybody. And remember, listen, true wealth is having success in all of those areas. And this is how I kind of pre-frame this a little bit. You can't build all this wealth and amass a fortune and then go home and kick the cat, yell at the kids, and fight with their spouse. That's not true wealth. True wealth means that you're having success in the 7 F's. I would be honored to hear your story and where is a dynasty that you would like to build? Who are you doing it for? Because your wealth today truly is your dynasty tomorrow. Thank you so much, everybody. I love you so much, Team Live, and I adore your Team Replay. Thank you so much, everybody. Talk to you soon.
Are you ready to take control of your financial future? Introducing Leah Garcia's Wall of Wealth, the ultimate one-page financial plan to protect, distribute, and transfer your wealth with confidence. Whether you're a business owner or just starting your financial journey, this step-by-step guide gives you the tools to create a solid foundation for long-term success. Don't wait to transform your money mind shift. Download your free copy today at leahgarcia.io and start building your wall of wealth now.